Okay, so this is my VS Code. So the first thing I use my VS Code for is that my project actually lives in VS Code. But if maybe it's your first time of using VS Code has this get started with VS Code, so you can customize your editor. And then what I do, first of all, I have to open up my folder. In this case, I've already opened it, but if you're working on it, you can maybe create a new file, open a file in your folder, and then you can see that I already have some recent project I've worked on, so I could easily go through any of these. So my VS Code allows me to open up my folder and see all of them in one glance from the Explorer. So for example, under my project, I have the component folder and it has files underneath it. I also have the hooks folder and so on. This might look simple, but when you have lots of a project that have lots of files, being able to easily find where your file is becomes very important. And then also I can use the search. For example, if maybe I have hundreds of files and I need to look for a file. So let me say I'm looking for logo.tsx with VS Code. I can easily search it and it just pops up so I can easily find anything. This is one feature, one thing that I love to use VS Code for. So something else I use VS Code for is actually to write my code, or what's a code editor, writing codes. If it has syntax highlighting, you can see all of the different colors. And VS Code understands frameworks and languages. So if you're working on TypeScript, for example, I'm working on TypeScript or on JavaScript or Python, VS Code understands languages and framework. Part of VS Code I use a lot is the integrated terminal, but you can also put it from here, open your new terminal. So when I first started learning web development, I did not immediately understand why developers were always typing command. For example, run server. I did not. But eventually it became a normal part of my workflow. For example, this command I just gave can help me to start my development server. And I can also install packages using pipe install and all of those. And so my code is here, my files are here, and my terminal is also here. So I can move between them without constantly switching application. So if you're learning web development, I would definitely encourage you not to be afraid of the terminal. You don't need to know hundreds of commands. Start with a few commands you actually need and gradually build from there. So this is something else I use VS Code for. I use VS Code for is the extension. VS Code has an extension where you, it's like a marketplace where you come to search for software. For example, I have some of the software installed. I have my live server that helps me to reload features for static or dynamic pages. So I don't, when I save something working in with static page, I can save directly on my browser. And then I have some of this, and so you can search. You don't need to install 20 extensions. It's just install things that you need, things that are solving problems for you. So another thing I use VS Code for is for Git and GitHub. If you can see over here, this project is actually a repository and I'm working on the main branch. And if maybe I make any changes, I can see it using my source control. So GitHub helps me. I can also see some of the things I've done over in this project. So yeah, I'm going to be making a video on Git and GitHub. They are not the same thing. So I'll discuss more about this in another video. So just in case you don't know about Git and all of the command, how to push, how to pull, how to commit changes, we are going to be discussing about that in some other video. Okay, something else I use VS Code for is to debug. For example, you can see over here I have like a red line. That's because of this bug that is here. So if I get that red line eliminated. So, and also over here you can see your run and debug. So I use VS Code for debugging. It may just be a simple syntax error like I just did, or maybe referencing something that doesn't exist over this error. I'll have to rectify them. So what it does is that it gives me a better visibility into what is going wrong. That's what, for example, you can see that I cannot find this module. That means this as references something that doesn't exist. So I would need to fix this. So debugging is not just about fixing an error, it's about understanding why the error happens. So something else I use VS Code for is VS Code has an AI agent. So you can chat with an AI agent, you can describe what you want to build, and it also allows you to integrate other AI agents like Word Code or IBM. But in subsequent videos, we are going to be talking about how to use your AI agent in your VS Code. So VS Code is more than a text editor for me. It's an integrated environment. So VS Code allows me to open my project, it allows me to open my terminal, it allows me to manage, control my project version control using Git. I can push directly from VS Code, and I can also debug. VS Code also allows me to get extensions that I need, extensions like Live Server, extensions like Cloud Code, and other extensions that are needed for my building. So this is how I use VS Code. So if this is your first time using VS Code, or you're just getting into web development, or you're already into web development, you don't need to know everything. And here is probably the biggest thing I want you to take away from this video. So if you're starting out with web development, you might open VS Code and feel overwhelmed. There are menus everywhere, as you can see. There are extensions, there's keyboard shortcuts, there's terminal, there's the Git, there's debugging, and you might think, do I need to know all of this before I become a developer? No, you don't. I definitely didn't learn all of this at once. You learn a feature because you have a problem that needs solving. You learn terminal because you need to run your project. You learn Git because you need to track your changes. You learn debugging because something broke. You install an extension because you want to improve a particular part of your workflow. And slowly, your editor becomes more powerful because you become more familiar with your tools. So that is how I actually use VS Code as a web developer. And if you're learning web development right now, don't worry about trying to turn VS Code into some perfectly optimized developer setup. Start simple, learn how to create and open folder, learn how to navigate through your files, learn how to use terminal, and learn how to use your Git. Learn how to debug, and then add more files as you actually need, because the goal isn't to have most complicated VS Code setup. The goal is to have a workflow that helps you build, and that's really what VS Code has become part for me. It started as a place to write code, but now it is one of the main tools I actually use to develop. If you're learning web development and you want to see more of these tools and workflows I use as I continue developing, make sure you subscribe and see you in the next one. Bye.